lost all track of time. What I'd like to do now is call the regular meeting of the Destin City Council, March 21, 2022 to order. Pastor, come on up.
May we bow our heads, please. Gracious Heavenly Father, we consider that you are the God of wisdom, and we seek your help this evening. Come and let us fall before you in worship and in concentration. Let your wisdom fall on us as we gather here for this meeting. Give us clarity so that we can effectively tackle each part of this evening's agenda. Reveal problem areas and show us the best solutions that apply. Point our eyes to every positive outcome since our last meeting, and let these favorable results and developments encourage each heart this evening. Dear God, help us apply your wisdom as we decide on certain matters and make plans. We thank you for these servants here tonight. We thank you for our beautiful area and our community and the wonderful people. And we thank you, Lord, for your love towards us and your divine protection. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, and before we get to the agenda approval, I want to make an announcement. Our under 1A, our Coast Guard presentation by Lieutenant Steve Browning is not going to take place tonight. I'm sorry to everybody that I was hitting up to watch this on the city meeting on the webinar tonight. Webb, he is going to reschedule that for the 4th of April meeting.
That is correct.
Okay, so that will be the 4th meeting. So that's the only thing that I have a change on the agenda. Is there anything else? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for agenda approval.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I got a second.
Mayor.
All in favor?
Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to pull
Oh, go ahead.
3B for discussion at a consent agenda, please.
All right, so we got a motion to pull 3B. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote on that. Ayes have it, so we're going to go ahead and pull 3B down to 4. I think what we'll do is, let me look at, let's put it under, right between C and D. Is that good, Ms. Braden? All right. All right, we'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda with the change we just voted on.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second? See no further discussion, let's take that to a vote. Ayes have it, so moved. All right. 3A, or just a consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this. Oh, we got public comment. I'm sorry about that. The presentation thing threw me for a loop. Let me clear my deal. All right. At this time, I will open up public comment. You have 3 minutes. When you come up to the podium, the light's already on, so you don't have to hit that. Just state your name and your address, and at about 2:45, I'll politely ask you to wrap up your thoughts. Come on up.
Jimmy Perkins, 748 Benning Drive. My comments is on the livery and all the charters that everybody's jumping on the captains. I think the city needs to put out, because there's a lot of misinformation. They think that if they put a captain on the boat out of the Destin Harbor with more than 6 people, that they can still run it, or they can just say it's a bare boat. I think the livery states that if you go more than 6, then it's a livery. It's no longer a charter boat. So everybody is running down to the docks, and they're saying, "Oh, we're running charters." And you can go to, made code informed of it. You can go get my boat. Get my boat. There's 53 people in there right now, every day, that are renting their boats out. You got all these pontoon companies that you guys say, can't put no more boats out, can't put more boats out. But you got Get My Boat that's booking every single day, and it's against the law. They don't have a BTR, they don't have anything on there. So that site needs to be closed up right there. The people that are running down to the docks and they say that we're doing the charters, and then they're bringing out and putting 10, 12, 13 girls on the boats. Those are now bear boats. And Destin, city of Destin has an ordinance, no bear boats allowed in the city of Destin. So I think the city needs to do a better job of just getting it out that unless you have a BTR, your license, and unless you're doing six packs, you cannot rent a boat. For me to say this man right here wants to take 12 people out on his boat, I can't do it. I can take 10 people out. But before I can do it, and I can only do it out of my Fort Walton location, I lease you the boat. After you get the boat, I give you a list of operators that you can hire, and then he can take you out. That's no longer a charter. That is a livery. You guys have froze no more liveries in Destin. And so code can go right to the Facebook site, so they're blowing up Facebook, but Get My Boat, 53 people a day are giving out boats on Get My Boat. I put one of my boats on there, within 5 minutes, it booked for $1,200, okay? I called and told them, said, okay, you're gonna have to take 2 boats, because I can only put 6 on each. Cancel. We got somebody else over here, because they want to put all 12 on one boat. Need to inform all the people in Destin that the livery, they can't rent their boats unless they have a medallion, okay?
Yeah, Jimmy, that's one of the reasons we had the Coast Guard here. That was one of the things they were gonna break it all down. What a charter is, what a livery is, what a private vessel is, so, but it's an educational process. Part of it's gonna fall out on our code enforcement, part of it's just gonna be, you know,
Okay.
we just gotta educate the
But
public.
we can nail them right there on their websites. I mean, Book My Boat's got to stop right there, so. Yeah, one of my bear boats got stopped this week on the blitz out there. And I was gonna bring you the paper, perfect, everything. It was on speaker, I listened to the whole thing, because when I was going across the Destin Bridge, I seen it pulled over, so I called. The operator just pushed speaker, listened to the whole thing. They went through everything, and then they said, tell Mr. Jimmy's doing a good job, and pushed me on to Fort Walton. But let's tell the people, because they think just because they're renting a boat, it's legal, because Get My Boat.
Thank you, Jimmy, appreciate it. Next. Anyone wanna come on up? Come on up.
If you have a medallion, you can bareboat out of the harbor, not without medallion.
Thank you, Jimmy. We need to get you some walk-up music like they do at
No,
baseball.
I just need to turn 65 in August and let the government pay for it.
Go ahead, sir.
Kyra Marler, 616 Second Street, Destin. I'm not here to talk about livery. Couple of issues. On the 13th of March, I attended the funeral of a longtime former principal, Eugene Walls, which Mr. Destin and Mr. Braden, I'm sure, know. And I ran into a situation that I was not happy with. We still have a noise problem. We reduced the speed, but we didn't put a sign out. We didn't have anybody out there to kind of like wave them down. You know, all your deputies, the escorts were there, but they had other things to do because I don't think they were all part of the Destin escort. And so we had some very loud vehicles. We had some very loud people walking by, and it was very disturbing to the pastor and to the widow and the family. I think that needs to be addressed. I remember one time when we did reduce the speed, I had asked a sign for slow, quiet funeral in progress signs out there, or an employee or somebody who could at least try to help a little bit with that. So I think that's something that you'd address. And I'm going to be back here until one of you council members, one of the 7 of you, will take the initiative about the First and Fourth Street intersection. Several years ago, of course, before I left council, we had an incident on Main Street and Kelly Street, and unfortunately, a life was lost. And years before that, I had requested a 3-way stop, and I was turned down by the council at that time. But it took a tragedy before it happened. I don't want that same tragedy to happen at First and Fourth. Mr. Burgess has the information that he and I worked on a long time ago. I think it's something that needs to be done. if one of you will drive out there and drive to 4th Street and get to 1st Street where the stop sign is, you have a blind spot because you have to rubberneck to 1st Street to see if there's a car coming. Then you turn back and then there's somebody's coming over the hill, over the hump at Benning Drive. That is very dangerous, especially when we have a lot of boat traffic, which is fixing to start and has already actually started. I think that needs to be done. I do want to commend the Public Works Department and all what they did, what they're doing at 3rd Street, 4th Street, and 2nd, and all trying to stop the flood. I know that Mr. Schultz built the 2 buildings behind, the 2 homes behind my house, and it actually makes the neighborhood look a little bit better. And I'm glad that the city is out there trying to solve the problem. I don't think it's going to completely solve the problem, but if it helps a little bit in stopping a lot of the flooding that we have out there, I think it will be a good thing. I think there's a lot more that can be done, not just by us neighbors and everything, but by the city. And I welcome the opportunity to talk to any council members about that. But again, I strongly ask you to again look at the stop sign situation at 1st and 4th and Benning Drive, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marler. Up next. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it going to the Public Works Committee? Where are we? I mean, this is the second time we know it's an issue, so don't know what the solution is. Can we take it to the Public Works, Public Safety Committee?
We certainly can. We just weren't given council direction when it was initially brought up to proceed with that.
Well, you just got it.
That's the direction.
Mr. Bagby just gave you direction. All right. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. All right. I just want to remind everyone there'll be another opportunity for public comment at the very end of the meeting. So if you want to stick around that long, there will be another opportunity. You want to speak, change your mind? Come on up. Now you have to hit the button because she just turned it off. Name and address.
I apologize. My name is Virgil May. My address was in Destin. I'm a lifelong Destinite. However, I'm currently working overseas and I do not have an address. And I just asked to be heard for a moment. It's on a lighter note. Yes, sir. I just wanted to get the ball rolling on a discussion regarding Coach Bill Shira. I don't know if this is the proper time to do it in the meeting, but that man, he coached several of us. He coached our kids, and he's got a big spot in my heart. He started coaching back in '76. He learned most of his coaching skills from Coach Threadgill, and then he brought it and he made Destin a powerhouse for many years. He coached till the year 2000, and then he stepped down from coaching, but then he started umpiring and refereeing. He loves the sports, football and baseball. He loves it, but it's more than that. He loved the kids, and he invested more in this community than anyone I can think of since Coach Threadgill in that arena. And everybody here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And if you could think about it, I take my sons to football practice now, and that's a lot, just taking them to practice. I can't imagine not having a kid in the sport, but doing it for that many years, that many nights a week, and then a game on Saturday, and then turning around and doing it for baseball season too. And the sacrifice that his family took for it, as well as wife, Ann. I would just like to get the ball rolling on a discussion of how we could honor this man in the future. Just put it in your heads, to something to think about, because, and it would be great if we could do it. Clement Taylor, Buck Destin, Dalton Threadgill were all honored after they passed. Man, it would be great if we could do something before he passed, or while he's, to tell him thank you while he's still alive. That would be wonderful. But just wanted to get that ball rolling, so thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Virgil. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
I hadn't arrived till I finally beat Bill in the city championship a couple years. He was always the man.
He was very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Last but not least, anyone else? We'll go ahead and close it at this time. Like I said, there'll be one more opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting. So, let's move on. I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion.
I got a motion.
Second.
All right, we got a second? Ayes have it, so moved. Take it away, Webb.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. And for our citizens and viewing audience, you may notice that our city manager, Lance Johnson, is not in attendance tonight. So he is out this week and will return next week. So I'll be doing my best tonight to fill in for him. First thing under the city manager reports this evening is the results and the recommendations for the compensation study. Next slide, please. In 2021, the Destin City Council made the top and critical priority objective for our organization to offer livable wages to attract and maintain high caliber staff. Council reaffirmed their commitment to this endeavor in 2022 by keeping this item as a top and critical priority into 2023. In addition, Council also affirmed that the top strategic goal for Destin is to be a financially sound city providing service excellence. Next slide, please. Council, as part of our strategic planning process, staff took that critical priority established in 2021 and workshopped the current FY22 budget that we are now operating with. Council adopted the FY22 budget with $5.6 million set aside for employee salaries. This included a 5% COLA and up to a possible 2% merit for employees. For the COLA and merit, those items have an approximate impact within our current 22 budget of $220,000 for the 5% COLA and somewhere between 35 to 70 for a possible merit increase. These measures were budgeted for within that $5.6 million. Next slide, please. After the budget was adopted, Council authorized Dr. Ling and Evergreen Solutions to perform a compensation study for Council to consider in the FY22 budget. And they did perform this study, and 92% of our employees actually completed the survey for Evergreen Solutions. So we're very proud of that because our employees took it very seriously, and our organization was very successful in getting their feedback and for Dr. Ling's staff. Next slide, please. The national economy and local economy is under increasing inflationary pressures for at least the last year. As a whole, everyone is seeing noticeable and sometimes rapid cost increases in products and services. In fact, the Consumer Price Index, also known as CPI, rose by 7.9% year over year in February, which is the fastest pace of annual inflation in 40 years. Also, according to AAA, the average cost a gallon of gas in Florida is currently $4.17. That's up more than $1.25 in 1 year. Last of all, the cost of groceries has risen approximately 8.5% over the last year. These pressures are reducing the purchasing power of consumers while increasing the cost of business for employers. Next slide, please. With the exception of a few months in 2020 during the COVID lockdowns, the unemployment rate has been and remains extremely low in Okaloosa County. In fact, it ranges at about 2.8, 2.9%. And this is creating a very challenging market for not only employers, or is a challenging market for our employers to retain employees and also attract new employees. Tonight we have Dr. Ling with Evergreen Solutions. He and his staff has worked hard on this compensation study and can briefly talk about the market results and methodology that you'll see over the next few slides. Dr. Ling, are you available?
I am. I'm here. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for the invitation. And Mayor, members of the council, again, thank you for allowing me to appear before you and talk about the compensation classification study. As Webb touched on, we were very pleased with the response that we received from your employees as they participated in the process. And I'll add, before moving into some of the detailed information, typically our goal is around 75% of the workforce to participate in completing a survey about their job, and you exceeded 90%. So it's strong level of support among your employees and participation in the process. As Webb mentioned, as we went through this journey together, one thing that we were specifically looking at was who does what, how do they do it, and what time do they spend doing each of those things. And that's the survey that we received the 92% response on. The other component of the assessment or the study related to looking at your market position. And I know last meeting I presented a little bit of this information, and I'll touch on some of this again this evening. Basically what we did is we identified a set of peer organizations taking into account local peers as well as more regional peers to compare you to on a sample of the jobs that make up the employees within the city of Destin. We found that the market differential was right at 19% in comparison to those peers not adjusting for cost of living, and when we adjusted for cost of living, there's about a 17% differential. Both numbers tend to indicate that Destin has not kept pace, at least from the range standpoint, with the market for most employees on average, creating this pressure not only for recruitment or your ability to bring people in, but some pressure on retention, being able to hang on to the employees that you have. We did take a look at benefits. I know this council identified benefits as a central area of concern, or a balance, if you will, to wages that are offered and salaries by the city. And what we found is, although the city of Destin has a very innovative and comprehensive deployment of benefits, really that we did not find that the cash value or the dollar value of benefits within the city of Destin is dramatically higher than what it would be among your peers. We found that it is in line from a cost standpoint or overall percentage standpoint to what we see among peer organizations that we compared the city to. This group identified last meeting that they wanted us to come back and be prepared this evening to talk about the differential or these market differentials if we look at your local market only. The local market differential ends up being a little bit more than the unadjusted amount. It's right between 20 and 21% being the differential when we look at only local peers within your commuting distance. There's a number of recommendations that we have brought forward as part of this effort. The first recommendation being that we recommend that you adopt a new pay plan, or a pay plan that's more responsive to what we found related to the market data that was part of the analysis, that fewer pay grades be utilized. What we found is you have not utilized all the pay grades over time. Part of that's a function of the number of employees and the type of jobs that you have. Part of that being changes within the market since the last time you went through this process. Second recommendation we made is that all classifications should be placed in the appropriate pay grade based on the market results, as well as, any type of compression that we would create from moving people into the market appropriate pay grade would be adjusted as part of number 2 as well. Number 3 is each employee would be placed appropriately within their relevant pay grade. So number 2 relates to their job title or their classification. Number 3 relates to the individual incumbents or the individual employees. If we take a look at the 2 alternatives that we propose on the next slide to address placement, one being the compa ratio, or in essence looking at what percentage of midpoint or what percentile the person falls in currently in your system that you have in place, and then replicating that in the new system. And the other alternative being the compa ratio. We would still calculate the same value as we do in the first alternative, but we would cap that at midpoint. No one would lose money in either alternative. With the cap at midpoint, it simply would mean that the focus of your implementation would be on those employees that are paid the least amount or the lower half within each of the pay grades that are proposed to you as part of this study.
Excuse me. Thank you, Dr. Ling. We appreciate your staff's hard work on this. It's been amazing to work with you guys, and we're about to roll into the next part of the presentation, which is actually showing the options. So based on the Evergreen Solutions data, the city and our consultant did develop 3 options. The first option is the compa to mid for all employees, as discussed by Dr. Ling. And on this slide, you can see, if you can go forward one more slide. There we go. Thank you. You can see the categories of employees, the current average and recommended salary, and average percent increase in salaries from those recommendations. In addition, these slides, all of these slides demonstrate the effect on budget for next year's FY23 budget. Of note, we also provided a future COLA and merit percentage approximate cost for each option. These options are typically brought to council in the operations budget workshop, which is typically in the May to June timeframe. So council usually provides guidance on the COLA and merit increase at that time. Next one is the straight compa for all option. This is option 2. It is not the recommended option from staff, but it would have an approximately a $368,000 effect on budget. So last of all is staff's recommendation for council. This is the effect on the FY23 budget is approximately $186,000 for next year. This is a hybrid solution between the COMPA and COMPA Mid, less our senior leaders. If you see in the year-to-date field, that field demonstrates our current projected expenditures at our current staffing level, which is about 4.3 million, which is below the budget of 5.6 million. Our personnel budget is conservatively budgeted to reflect 100% staffing levels. Due to normal turnover, that number traditionally is run below 90%. So Evergreen's, next slide, please. Evergreen Solutions and staff has been working hard to provide recommendations that can allow the city to accomplish the top council objective and the number one strategic goal, which again is a financially sound city providing service excellence. So, next slide. Yes, thank you. With the rising cost of doing business, the private sector has been raising prices to ensure their service levels and expectations remain competitive and meets the needs of their customers. With that in mind, with the next slide concerning financial sustainability, I'd like to ask our Finance Director, Ms. Crystal Strickland, to present the next few slides. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So this slide, I took all of the city's revenues and I put them into three categories. We have what I call city revenues, which are operational revenues. These are revenues that we have control over as a city. And then we also have another operational revenue category that I just called operational revenue. These are funds that come from the state of Florida and from other sources. They're a constant source, but we have no control over them. They're based upon our population, and we can't change the formula, and we can't ask for more. And then the third set of revenues are things from grants that are also unpredictable, and we don't have control over those, so I excluded those altogether. I don't call those operational revenues. Next, below the operational revenues, I show our operating expenditures. So these are things that we need year over year to keep our salaries and benefits funded, and to keep the lights on, to keep the buildings warm or cool or whatever it might need to be. Most local governments, their personnel costs run at about 66% of their total operating costs. We as the city of Destin, we have put more money into contracts. So that's why the contractual labor is a lot higher. For example, with our law enforcement contract, we don't have a police department, we have a contract with the sheriff's office. So if we go on to the next slide, I've taken the city revenues that we have control over, and I have made notes next to the ones that we can increase immediately if we need to. So the top one is the ad valorem tax, which I'm not proposing any adjustment to right now, just by the increase in property values. The property appraiser believes if we leave the millage rate alone, we will likely bring in about $9.8 million next year. We'll be receiving firm numbers from the property appraiser on or around July 1st. But this was an initial estimate from them. The next group of expenditure or revenues that we have here are things that are like permit fees and license fees. These are items that we can control, and we do have some permit and license rate studies going on right now. So we can look into that. Solid waste franchise is one of the largest ones. Currently, our solid waste franchise fee is 1%. All of the other utility franchise fees are set at 6%, so that could potentially be a source. Then we have livery vessel permit fees, rental registration fees. We might try to think of something that's a little bit simpler across the board, a slight increase. So the other items, I put down a 7% increase, and we could implement that within the next 60 days if we so wished. That 7% would help us cover some of the other operating expenditures that we've had that we have not increased those fees for in a number of years, such as our merchant service fees. So altogether, there are things that we could do immediately that would increase our city revenues by about $300,000, which would go a long way towards covering this. On the next slide, I'd like to draw attention to some of the programs that we have in place right now that we're looking at, that are in our adopted strategic plan. We're looking at annexing in some of the enclaves that are within the city limits. That would increase certain revenues, and if there were residential units in some of those, that would also increase our population, which would have a positive impact on some of those other operational revenues that we can't control. Again, they're population-based. We have some other programs going on right now as well. We have the impact fee study. That'll take some pressure off of the general fund and off of our operational revenue sources, because that would give more money for our capital projects that are related to growth. The impact fee study, we will soon be having a building permit fee study as well. And we're looking into updating our business tax receipt fee schedule to simplify it. And we're hoping that we can get more compliance with that as well. If we simplify the process, make it fast and painless, that should improve that revenue source as well. But if we could just go back a slide, 2 slides again to where we show the operating revenue and the operating expenditures. I'd like to draw your attention to the middle line there, the subtotal of net operations. So our operating revenues less our operating expenditures, year over year, we're bringing in a positive balance of about $2.9 to $4 million. So about $3 to $4 million a year. Right now, those are the funds that are going to more discretionary type projects, such as the multi-use center feasibility study, or we had a marina feasibility study in there. So there are certain capital projects. There are no other funding sources. So I've been using these net operating funds towards those discretionary projects. But hopefully we can bring in more grants to do the discretionary projects and make sure we take care of our staff first. Webb, I think you can take this in for a landing, right?
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Strickland. So staff has brought forward information and options that we believe will accomplish the 2 strategic top priorities. This can be done within this year's budgeted funds, and as stated, there would be an impact on next year's budget. At this time, staff is happy to answer any questions council might have. Thank you.
I got Ms. Aberry, you want to go ahead?
Yes, Mayor, I just want to move to authorize the city manager to implement option 3 of the compensation study effective for the pay period beginning April 2nd, 2022.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second, and I'm sure we'll have a discussion. Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. While I'm 100% in favor of compensating our employees, and I know that we've been talking about it for a number of months, I've had a couple of questions. I had, I kind of like to believe that when you spend money, you should have a revenue source. We've got a number of potential revenue sources, and after I spoke to Ms. Strickland earlier before the meeting, she made me feel a little more comfortable that the money that we took out of reserves is not going to operational or to this, but we still have a number of possible revenue sources. However, we do not have a revenue source until we've made those decisions. That part concerns me just a tad. I noticed that in this recommendation, there are no increases for the upper echelon employees. I'm not sure that's quite fair. I know it would cost more money, but if we're going to treat the employees uniformly, fairly, perhaps we should do that. And one other part that concerned me about as we go forward is, I know we seem to be in a rush. We got this information, the final study, a couple of weeks ago. I reviewed with Webb and Ms. Strickland, I think a couple of days ago. The document that has the real nuts and bolts of this entire compensation study is not part of our agenda package tonight. Without that document, it makes it hard to ask questions. It is a public record. And it makes me a little concerned that we don't have that in front of us tonight. I understand that we do have it over at the City Hall and Council Reading Room, and I did look at it over there. But to leave that document out makes me very uncomfortable, because not only is it here in front of us, not only is it not here in front of us, but also the public has not seen it. I understand the reasoning behind not making it available. I mean, if you want to really dig through it, you can come up with some guesses about what people are getting paid. I file a financial disclosure every July. Not only do I not make money at the city, but they make me tell everywhere I do make money and everything I own. That is the price that comes with being a public official and working for a public entity. So, you know, I'm uncomfortable that we've not used that document and that we've not included everybody. Ms. Strickland told me that we're going to have a workshop that I think Webb referred to a little earlier in May that may address the issues then. I don't understand why we don't do it all at one time. So,
Would you like to answer that, why we're not, Webb or Crystal? I don't know who would better answer that for that comment that Mr. Destin's asking.
Well, as a top priority, we were trying to bring it as quickly as possible this year once the study was complete, and that's what we have done.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. The May budget workshop will be discussing our 2023 budget, so that would go into effect in October, and our long-range planning for year over year. So at the May budget workshop is where we would discuss what type of cost of living, if we would give one to anybody, you know, depending on what actions we take tonight, where we put our current existing staff tonight. Then in May, we would look at the big picture and the impact on future years, including next year, to discuss.
I understand
Further.
we're doing it twice instead of all at one time. I don't know, should we go over and get that document out of the reading room at City Council and bring it over here so we can go through the details? Or should we table this until we've had an opportunity to do that for a meeting? I'll offer a substitute motion that we table to a time certain the next meeting.
I have a motion. Motion dies for lack of a second.
It does, and it's unfortunate that it appears we're hiding information. I don't like doing business that way.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Items tabled.
No, we got to vote.
Oh, we got to take a vote. I'm sorry.
And there is discussion when you do it to a time certain. And so if anybody wants to talk and discuss it, I just, you know, and
Because of that, Ray, go ahead, clear the voting. Stand by. I'm going to give anyone an opportunity then, seeing how it's time certain. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to table? All right. Seeing no discussion, let's go ahead.
I was going to add one other thing that I've found.
Go ahead. You're more than
Yeah,
welcome.
I was going to add one more comment since we're under discussion. I found it's always better to do things in completely above board than no one can say that we were trying to hide something from the public.
Ms. Abear.
I was just going to say, we're not hiding anything. It's public record. It's just not physically in the packet. If they want to know what we're paying our staff, that's it's available for anyone to go look at. And we've put this off not for weeks, but over a year. And we've got employees that we're losing every week to other cities that are going to pay them more. So that's why I feel like tabling this to get this document physically in here is the wrong call at this time. I think the May budget meeting would be when we figure out the rest of what we do for them.
Well, I would just point out to you that it is available to the public. They knew that it existed and they made a public records request. A very bad way to do business.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote on the motion to table. The motion fails. So we're back to the original motion. And we had a motion and a second, and we can have discussion. We had, Mr. Destin started that discussion. I had a couple people up. Mr. Bagby, you're next, and then Mr. Braden.
Yeah, and I agree with some of the things that you've pointed out, Mr. Destin. But I also agree with Councilwoman Abear. It's been too long. We said it's a priority. If it's a priority, you know, we ought to vote to execute our priorities. Otherwise, they're not priorities. And so we said this was our number one priority. And I agree, we have to figure out, and we're going to have a lively discussion in May because, you know, my thing is, why don't we raise the franchise fee on waste management up to 6%? As long as we stay less expensive than the county's charging for the exact same service, which I think we can do, but that's kind of up to the city manager and the staff to negotiate that. And we've historically, I've been in favor of higher impact fees. I know that some folks up here have not been in favor of higher impact fees. But there's a lot of money we leave on the table in those impact fees that don't have to be overbearing or exorbitant, but they ought to be fair. And I don't think they have been fair. They shouldn't, you know, keep people from developing, but they should extract the cost that it takes on the community. So, you know, but there are other places. I'm not for raising the ad valorem, and I will tell you in my discussion when I sat down with the staff, I said, look, you're getting a mid-year raise, you're getting up to 100%. Do not come back to me. You can come back to the other 6 in May and say, oh, we need a 5% COLA and we need a 2% merit based on the COLA over the last year. No, you got your COLA up to April 2nd, 2022. So, you know, 1% COLA, 1% merit, maybe a 2% and a 1%, whatever, but we're not going to do, and part of this is we haven't taken care of them along the way, so now we're playing catch up. You know, if we'd just done the right thing over the years, we wouldn't have this big number, but I think it's solvable, and I look forward to our discussions because I think there's probably 8 different opinions on how to get that money. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Mr. Braden?
Thank you, Mayor. I think Crystal and Webb, the two that I know that's been in this, has done a tremendous job. I know the entire staff that's worked on it's done a great job with it. When I met with them and went over it, I was satisfied with it. I really would not insinuate that the staff is trying to hide something or do something underhanded, because this council over the past several years has tried to and made sure that everything was above board. The public was involved. I think, you know, an employee getting 50 cents an hour raise or whatever it is, you know, is trying to do something underhanded without the public knowing it, you know, and the public should be able to be aware of it. But I think everything is above board. We're not trying to hide anything. And I'm going to support this tonight, and I think it's well overdue. Thank you.
Ms. Abear?
Well, ditto Rodney, because that's kind of what I was going to say. And then I also want to commend the senior leadership who are so proud and so happy to have the people they have, that they don't want a pay raise. They want whatever money they can to go to the middle management and the hardcore people out there in Parks and Rec and in, you know, Public Works and doing all the legwork that are totally underpaid. So I just want to commend the leadership that said, go option 3. We don't need the money. We want our people to be happy, because when they're happy, we're happy. So thank you for the leadership that runs the departments for our city.
All righty then. I don't have anybody up on the thing, so we have a motion. Okay. You're more than welcome. Have
And I
at
want
it.
to, and I want to make it clear, I'm not insinuating anybody's trying to do anything crooked. I just want to say, it's always better to err on the side of sunshine, which is what we're supposed to do. I'm going to vote for the raise, but I think we should have erred on the side of open government.
Okay. All right, let's take a vote.
I think if this council has erred on the side of open government for the last 20 years, we'd never be in the situation we're in today.
Rodney, Bobby, still waiting on you? There you go. Ayes have it, so moved. Next item, speaking of solid waste, item B.
Thank you, Mayor. Next item tonight is an update on our solid waste franchise contract. Destin is in the final year of a 5-year franchise agreement with Waste Management. Staff went out to RFP in 2017, and that resulted in council selecting Waste Management as our solid waste provider. The franchise agreement will expire on September 30th of this year. Our current standard residential rate for Destin residents is a monthly cost of $22.78. The service levels outlined in that original RFP in 2017 had twice weekly garbage pickup, once weekly recycling, once weekly yard and bulk pickup. I believe it's 6 yards on that bulk pickup, as well as senior discounts. Recently, the Okaloosa Board of County Commissioners voted, in fact, it was just March 15th, to renew their contract effective April 1st with Waste Management. This contract did result in a 12.8% increase in their fees. I do want to clarify, we had a Scrivener's error actually in the packet. It did say 15% increase. That was incorrect. It is actually 12.8% plus a county remediation fee for landfills. Destin's procurement manual outlines that staff issues an RFP for services such as solid waste. During the January visioning session, there was some active discussion by council concerning our solid waste services. Staff is providing this update and request for direction before we issue a new RFP on the solid waste services. And I do see we have some representatives from Waste Management in the audience tonight, Mr. Ronnie Bell, Ms. Dominica Farmer, as well as Jake Alderfer. And if council has any questions, I think they might be able to answer that, or if you would like to bring them up to the podium, they're here. Thank you.
Ms. Abear?
Well, based on numbers of citizens that have had extreme pleasure with the waste management taking good care of us here in Destin, I move to waive the standard procurement procedure and direct city manager to negotiate a renewal of the solid waste contract with Waste Management and bring information back to city council by the first council meeting in May.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Discussion. You already beat me to the punch on the comments because I was talking with our staff and they said they'd had 37 people send them emails and make comments of how good the service was from Waste Management and only 11 complaints. And 11 complaints I thought was extremely good, but I've never heard anybody compliment a waste management company to the city staff, let alone anyone else. And just based on my own personal experience as a business owner and as a private homeowner, I feel like their service, they've lived up to their portion of the service. I think allowing our city manager to renegotiate a new contract with the Waste Management, of course, is the prudent thing to do. I understand, as in everything else, the number one expenditure for those folks is fuel. And so we all know what's happening there. So I'm sure there's going to be a discussion along those lines. Up next will be Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. And while I also have had very good service from Waste Management, 17 years is a long time not to even put it out to bid. We had a representative of another company that was here at the last meeting who finally got worn out around 10 o'clock, I guess, or 10:30 and went home. And the best way that I have found to make sure you get the best price is to put these things out to bid. And so, you know, I would not support the motion. We will still have that opportunity, I guess, if we're not happy with the negotiations as they come out. But to go 17 years without ever putting it out to bid to see what other purveyors would provide is an alien concept to me.
I do want to just provide some clarification. We did put the RFP out in 2017 and I believe 2012, so. Yes, sir. In the packet, I think there were 2 others that responded in the 2017, and the results of that was in the. Yes, sir. The council selected Waste Management in the last franchise.
Yeah, I think, well, correct me if I'm wrong, I think their price went down, Waste Management.
You were here, I wasn't, so.
Ron? I'm sorry. Council, is it okay if Ronnie speaks to that?
Oh, yeah, no,
Thank you.
we're talking about him. I'll give him a chance to
I
speak.
can't remember the details. It seems like it went down.
Mayor, Council, Ronnie Bell, Waste Management, 108 Hill Avenue, Fort Walton Beach. And I've had 10 more days before I retire. So you have to let me speak. No, I'm just teasing. It was put out in 2017. We did reduce the price on the residential side of the contract and commercial. The other respondents were Waste Pro and Emerald Coast Waste. And the interview committee, the ranking committee, placed us as number 1, and it was come back to the board to negotiate, or to council to negotiate a contract. Councilman Destin, I understand what you're saying, but what the recommendation is, and again, I got 10 days left, but we're talking about May 1st to have back, working with staff to come back to the council with a proposal for a renewal if the council goes with that. If you don't go with it, you have 6 months to put it out to RFP before the contract ends. I think that's a very good option to look at because if we can't come back to you in a reasonable time, my goal is to come back to you in your second meeting in April, even before May 1st, with something, your staff to come back with something that you can consider. And if you don't like it, go out to RFP, because you'll have ample time at that time to do that. But you know, go to your fact, Mayor, cost has increased, fuel and everything. Biggest cost has increased over us for the last 18 months is personnel. No different than what I heard you talking about your compensation study, to try to keep and retain those great people we have working in Destin. I think Jake was telling me 18 trucks that work in Destin every week. Yeah, and we're fortunate for that. But I'll be glad to answer any questions Mayor and Council may have, or try to.
And I have a line up here to speak, but seeing how Ronnie's at the podium, I'll just start with Rodney and work all the way down for questions for Ronnie, and then we'll go another round if you need to. Rodney?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ronnie, and I appreciate it. And I do recall we were threatened with a lawsuit from another waste management company or another garbage company, whatever you want to call it, back in that last time we bid. And I think I was pushing hard to put it back out myself for bid at that time. I thought it was time. But the only complaints that I've heard is the yard debris pickup. And that's the only one that I've witnessed myself is the yard debris pickup. Is some of it they tag because it's not a small enough pile or bundled. And then I've also witnessed the guys dragging large magnolia limbs out of a pile and shoving them in the truck. And so it's like there's no consistency there on that side. But other than that, I have no complaints whatsoever. It's been great. And Ronnie, I wish you well when you retire. It's been great working with you. Thank you.
A couple of things kind of got clarified already because I saw the 2017 RFP bid, and I think you guys do a great job. They're always helping me with the limbs. And I mean, if we need to add to the motion that they come back in a month on that second council meeting with it, so we do have the amount of time needed, I'd be in favor for that. But I mean, I'm in favor of talking to the people who have been taking care of us so far.
Mr. Destin?
Thank you, Mayor. And I would say it would take a heck of a bid from someone else for me to think that it was a good thing to abandon y'all. You have done a good job, but I also know that when you negotiate, it's always good to have other people take part in it. Otherwise, you're negotiating with blinders on. And I hope you don't take it as an insult that I would ask that it go out to RFP. But that's the way we're supposed to do business, to try to get the best deal for the citizens of Destin.
Mr. Bagby?
Yeah, I don't have any questions for Ronnie or Jake necessarily. Well, I may in a second. But normally, I am exactly where Mr. Destin is. I believe that we owe it to competition to get the best price. And normally, I would support doing that. My concern is, in this instance, is people, equipment, okay? How long does it, Jake, how long does it take to get a truck? So you got 18, so we got somebody who's not servicing our city gonna have to go find 18 trucks. Okay?
And issue garbage cans for everybody.
And issue garbage cans and issue compactors for our commercial, for the condos and stuff, and issue, and so in normal times, they might be able to pull that off. I just don't think, I know we had a dadgum credit card reader machine today. It took us like 8 months to get because the chip that goes in it, they couldn't get the chip. And so I just think if it's not broke, let's not fix it. And y'all aren't broke. I mean, the only people that, not the only people, but the people I get the most compliments from are from citizens is Waste Management and the Sheriff's Office. You know, now the City Council, they dog me all the time, but you guys, and I just think you do a great job, and it's not that I don't think competition wouldn't get us a really good price. I'm worried about somebody else's ability to actually execute that contract on time with the proper amount of equipment and people. And so I'm going to support the motion.
Ditto what Jim just said. You guys are phenomenal. Your people they love their job. You take care of them, and it's the same guys. And I've never had a problem with waste. Now, I don't know, because I always try and make sure it's a nice, easy pile. Can I hold it up and get it to the street? Then the guy can hold it up and get it in the truck. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And in this case, it's stellar. You got a great operation. And I just don't think in these times and the lack of supplies and the fuel cost, they may come in under your bid, but we're going to get a crap. I just don't feel like we're going to get what we're getting right now. So I'm going to support this motion. I'm not going to.
Everything everyone else said. The main thing is, and I just want to remind everyone here, is all we're doing is voting to allow our city manager to renegotiate the contract. So it's not like we're approving Waste Management as our contracting company. This is just to allow them the opportunity. Ronnie, you said it clearly, as if it's unacceptable. We still got 6 months to go RFP anyway. So I appreciate you guys coming in here to explain that for us. And we'll have a vote here in just a minute after I let Mr. King speak, and then we'll go forward with the vote. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I think it's really clear Mr. Bell's just trying to get this pushed along so he can get out of here in 10 days and be on to somebody else. No, yeah, I'm just kidding. Guys, thanks, Mr. Bell, and thanks for all y'all's hard work. I share the same feelings as most everybody else up here. Couldn't be more impressed with y'all's service. I mean, it just is, it's incredible. I don't have any concern with it. I'll be supporting the motion myself. And you guys pretty much said everything I was going to say. So, all right, thank you guys.
Thank you, Johnny.
Mayor, can I say one other thing?
Go ahead.
You know, when we were at your visioning session, you know, y'all directed these type of comments to us. Again, I'm going to say this again. Mayor, I know you weren't there at the vision session, and Councilman Braden, I don't think was there.
I was there.
Oh, you may have been. Okay, I'm sorry.
I was there.
I was looking at you.
I was in spirit.
Okay, but the big thing is,
At the cron.
those nice comments from you all from your citizens, they go to him. I didn't do any of it. That's operations. And Councilman Bagney, you understand? Yes, I heard your comment. But and I'm so glad y'all said it again tonight, because Ms. Farmer, our vice president, sitting back there in our area office right here in Destin. It's great that she gets to hear those. She knows it. She knows what kind of team he operates and operations he has, not only in Destin, but every place we serve. But it was so nice to hear y'all say that. So, thank you very much.
Yeah,
All right.
And the employees appreciate it, because, there's 27 employees that are here at least 5 days a week, some are 7. We have 7-day routes with commercial. So, to your, yeah, oh yeah. And that's tough, you know what I mean? They sacrifice things with their families too, you know what I mean? And I appreciate every one of our employees. And, there is times where, yes, we're constantly coaching about leaves in the street or doing something to that effect. But at the end of the day, a good portion of our employees are 100%. And we strive for that every day. So that's,
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate
Thank
you
you
for
very
coming here.
much.
Hey,
All right.
Ronnie, we're gonna need this back in 10 days now. We're gonna give us the next guy in line.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take this to a vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor. Next item for tonight is our citizen survey. The city has done 2 previous citizen surveys with the National Research Center, once in 2011 and also in 2016. The survey is a broad community survey that engages our residents. It allows for evidence-based decisions and to measure performance of Destin to peer cities. If approved, the survey would also compare Destin to our past survey results, which provide trend data on critical issues that we face in the city. The timeline of the survey would be the survey being administered in approximately August timeframe, and that would provide a report back to council in December of this year. While that's important, is that would provide performance data to not only to council but to staff in preparation for our strategic planning session in January. So it really follows our strategic planning process throughout the year very well. Staff's recommended action on this item is to include benchmark comparisons and the ability to add a few specialized questions to this survey. And that will allow us to drill down on some issues that are specific to our town. The total cost of staff's recommended option is $21,800, and staff is requesting approval or further direction on this item. Last of all, I would just note that there is the ability for us to spend a little bit more, well, it's a couple of $1,000s more for a presentation. One is a virtual option. The other is an in-person option. Those options are available in the packet. Our recommended, or staff's recommendation is to just provide the report back to the city council and the city staff by December. Thank you.
All right, and there was no motion or anything, that was just an update.
I'll make the motion,
Oh, okay,
Mr. Mayor. I move the city council approve the use of the National Citizen Survey through Polco National Research Center for a total cost of $21,800 and endorse the addition of the half page of custom questions and custom benchmark comparisons.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any comments? Go ahead, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you. I went through the survey and got what our last results were. I feel like we kind of know what the next 5-10 years look like with projects we seem to be already filed in. I feel like this is just kind of wasting $21,000 worth of something we could put towards a different study. Going back here and even to the point of getting what would be the most valuable, in my opinion, would be seeing what that looks like nationwide. All it comes back with really is, oh, similar, above, very below. I feel like it's just not well spent data for things we probably already know. A lot of the comments that we got last time are still in use, still the same issues that we're tackling now and we have progress with, but without the progress of the crosstown connector being done. I'm assuming it's going to be the same kind of questions and answers back to us. So I just don't see why we need an update this 4 years. I see the viability of this, and I see the reasoning to have this data to go off of, but I don't know. I just feel like we haven't made the next step to then check our progress and results. So that's my feelings on this.
Ms. Aber.
I appreciate what Bobby's saying, but I beg to differ. You know, in 5 years, the amount of people that have moved here, there's a dynamics that's changed. And if you talk to the homeowners, the renters, the realtors, I think we're going to have a different population. We've had a lot of people that have left and have moved to smaller cities and have left Destin because they didn't like where the city was headed. And also the half page of custom questions and benchmark comparisons. I think you're going to get a different feel from our citizens. And I think it's not a lot of money for a lot of very valuable up-to-date information. So that's why I would support this study.
Mr. Bagby. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I tend to agree with Teresa on this. I understand, but I look at it in a programmatic way. You do this every 4 years. In the intervening 2 years, you do a staff survey to tell us, because one of the first things I was told the first time I got elected was by Jerry Miller, and he says, you're going to find out everybody supports you and everybody voted for you after you get elected. Because nobody is how those other guys get votes, because they're all your friends and they all pulled a lever for you, and you know, 40% of them didn't, or whatever number it was in 2006. Yeah. And so they tell you, your friends, your neighbors, they tell you what sometimes you think you want to hear, or they think you want to hear. This is a, and there are a lot of angry people in this town. There are a lot of angry people in this country, and I think they will take this survey, and I think they will let us know if they are worried about the same things or not worried about the same things. But maybe they are, but the only way to find out, truly find out, is to ask them. And so I kind of support going back out and asking them.
What? I went to bat to try to save us 50 grand, potentially $500,000 last meeting, and so I'm totally in support of being as responsible with taxpayer money as possible, no question. I think, am I wrong to say that this could potentially prevent referendums? And I mean, this could be like, I think this could be big for us. Am I on the right track there? I mean, I think going through the Joe's Bayou survey that we had done was huge. I mean, like, there's hundreds of people that got on there to tell us what they think, you know, and what they want, exactly. So, Bobby, I'm 100% in support of saving as much money as we can and being as responsible with the money as possible. I think this is a good thing. I'm going to support it.
Yeah. Last thing to that would be, that survey could have been free for us. We could have just put it out there for us. So I was always just thinking from, can we do a survey without a middleman if we are not valuing how we rank against the country? If our concerns are, what do our people are worried about or concerned about, or how are they impacting their lives? Could we do it for below $21,000 in-house? If the main value I see from this company is, we're going to compare you to the rest of the country in comps and non-comp cities. So that's kind of been my biggest point on this. It's not a lot of money, so I'm not going to go down on this hill, but my thought was we have a competent team to do our own surveys for not $21,000. We got to... Okay.
All right. Seeing, we have a motion, we have a second. Oh, Mr. Bragg, you have your say. Go ahead.
Why can't we do that survey like we did the Joe's Bayou survey?
So this survey is, the Joe's Bayou survey, anybody can take it, and we really value their opinions. This survey is designed to be much more random, and it goes across the city in a totally random format. So not only do you get the person that's in the apartment complex, you get the person that has a home on the water. It gets a great spectrum of the city, so it gets more accurate results and truly allows for good benchmarks against other cities.
So this would be like a survey that's mailed to our citizens' home.
1,500.
And we know.
Yeah, it's
who's
not
getting it.
social media like our last.
Yeah. I got you. That makes sense. Right.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
just one more piece of information. I believe FDEP is footing the bill for the Joe's Bayou survey, and we are paying 3TP consulting firm for the in-house survey, citizen survey that we've been doing recently for community development.
None of them are free.
None of them are free. It's not our internal staff.
All righty then, we have a motion, we have a second, and we're going to go ahead and vote. Ayes have it, so moved. And now we're going to discuss, Mr. Braden, you wanted to pull 3B and move it out of the consent agenda, so I'm going to let you lead off, sir.
Thank you, sir. Let me get back to it.
Yep, that's community center repair.
Yes, sir. There we go. All right, the thing that concerns me is this contract has nothing to do with a contractor's got to come in and wall it up, I guess so they can secure the building when the windows and stuff come out. I'm not real sure why the whole framing's got to come out. This doesn't include somebody taking down the storm shutters, any stucco work, or any interior sheetrock work, painting, all that's still got to go out. So I'd really like to have the whole packet in front of us instead of the 155 for the windows and then 100,000 for a contractor or whatever. So unless staff's got an answer for that one.
Mr. Burgess, can you help us out on this item?
Yeah, just a little history. We went out initially middle of the year last year for community center windows and stucco repair. We were going to do it all together. We put that out on the street for around 30 days. We garnered no responses and no questions. You know, we didn't get any or many questions to the clerk's office concerning that RFP. Couple months later, we took the stucco part out of it. So maybe that was the problem, because not a lot of people do stucco. Again, we put it back out on the street, 30 days, garnered no responses. So eventually, what we had to do was contact local glass companies and try to get quotes, because obviously the RFP or B route wasn't, we weren't making any headway there. We were able to secure 2 bids, but they were, like it's been discussed several times tonight, they would only hold those prices for 30 days because the price of materials, labor, and everything else. We had 2 quotes as of 2 weeks ago, and when I reached back out to one of the vendors, that the proposal was very similar to this one. They didn't want to take down the storm shutters either. They basically withdrew their quote. So what we have in front of you this evening is all that we've been able to secure in 9 months. It's a very difficult proposition to get these windows and doors replaced. Now, as far as stucco and interior and drywall and painting and all that, if this goes through tonight, we will start the second phase of this and then secure all those additional services that will be required to finish this project.
Okay, my next question is, I'm not real sure where this went out to bid or how it's going out, but in my professional opinion, we need a contractor to do it that's going to do the entire job, give us the price to do it all from start to finish, not send it out to a glass company, get a glass bid, and then try to get somebody else to come in and do all the other work. And when I said, I don't know where it's going out, because before I come to the meeting, I made 2 phone calls to find out if the contractors did, why didn't you bid on this? The one contractor said he did bid on it 2 years ago, approximately 2 years ago. And now this time didn't know anything about it. Said, yeah, absolutely, I'll bid on it. And the next one, Why didn't you bid on it? Didn't know anything about it. You interested? Absolutely, I'll bid on it. So, I mean, I don't know where it's going out. I don't know if we're doing just what we need to do as far as putting it out in the paper, whatever, but I made 2 phone calls, got 2 contractors that's willing to bid on it. So maybe I can pass along those phone numbers to you, or those guys, to do it. I mean, I'd call contractors instead of just glass companies, but anyway, like I said, I made 2 phone calls, and in my opinion, I think we need a contractor to do it, not just because what I read this thing is not, the glass company's not, replacement materials damaged by others. They're not going to be responsible for that. Any permitting, any certification, any testing, any cleaning, any warranty, or the manufacturer's warranty. I mean, all they're going to do is come in and put some windows in. They ain't responsible for nothing. So, I mean, I wish we could just table this and so we could get it back out and try to get a contractor to bid on it.
Yeah, I was going to see if we needed to make a motion here.
I'd like to make a motion that we resubmit to eligible contractors the bid for the community center windows and doors immediately.
Motion.
Second.
Have a second. Now we can discuss that. Mr. Destin?
Can I just clarify, and Rodney, it's definitely your field more than mine, or I think Webb's too, but you think general contractors are who we should be seeking quotes from here?
Yeah, because I mean, he does it all. Because I don't know, I think it's going to be tough to get a contractor now to come in and try to pull it, because they're going to pull the permit for the windows. I guess the city glass will get a contractor to pull a permit to put the windows in, but contractor ain't gonna want to touch it as far as come back in and piecemeal around somebody else is doing the windows and do all the dirty work, more or less.
They'd rather work with their own sub, is what you're
Yeah,
getting at?
just get the whole job and not get, like I say, because the money's in the windows, obviously, and I mean, they're gonna get the same price for the windows, but yeah, it's a contractor's job, and I mean, staff knows that. I ain't telling them nothing that they don't already know, but and I'll be glad to help them. I mean, I ain't got no affiliation with any of them, or just reached out to a couple local contractors, been there forever, that we all know, and say, hey, why don't you bid on? Just curious, why don't you bid on it? What was it? The city? Are we not paying, or what's the deal? We just too hard to work for? What's it? They said, oh no, we'll be glad to.
I can't answer that question. However, if council prefers, we can take a look back at this and see how we can advertise and take another stab at it.
I think that's the direction the council's moving in with this motion to bid. Mr. Destin, would you like to make a comment? And then Mr. Bagby, and then we'll take us to a vote.
Okay, and my only question is, you guys have been trying to get somebody to do this for what, a year and a half now? A while?
For a while, yes, sir. It's
Okay.
been on the capital improvement project list for years. But it was just probably last year in the spring that we really put forth a concerted effort to secure a general contractor or someone similar to do this work for us. And again, we put it out on the street twice. Ray and them advertised it, and it garnered no proposals or responses, and very few, if any, questions from any potential proposers.
And so you did finally find a window contractor that was willing to do it?
Yes, sir.
And is this, if we go back to square one again and put it out for bid, is that person going to be available, I wonder?
I can certainly reach out to him tomorrow.
We don't know the answer to that, do we?
No, and I where you're going with that, Mr. Destin, it was the first thought I had as well. It's like, Michael's been dealing with this, so Michael, I'm gonna put you on the spot. If you had a vote of how you'd like to do this, what would be your recommendation as head of Public Works of whether we ought to put this back out to RFP or we better take what we got? I just want your honest opinion. It's not binding to any of our council members, but You're our resident professional for the city, so I'm just going to ask you that question.
Well, we made a recommendation, Mayor. It's on the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure you want my recommendation, but no, I see both value in both arguments. You know, we have a secured bid, it's fresh, it's less than 30 days old, they're willing to do the job. However, like Councilor Braden said, there's some other ends that we'll have to tie up. As far as the drywall, the stucco, all that, securing the building each night while they're working, all that. But I also see the value in having one contractor handle everything.
Destin, go ahead.
Unfortunately, I have both bids saved, both proposals saved on my computer, so all I have to do is update the dates, and it'll go through our internal process for review and approval, and I could probably have it to Ray in the next 7 to 10 days for advertisement.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of questions. Ray, where do we advertise these RFPs?
Daily News, Pensacola papers,
Okay.
and also the Demand Star,
Right. Okay, because I would reach out to Alan Baggett at BIA, and he probably has more contractors and then my question, because I can't remember our requirements, it's been a while since I've actually dug into them, but do we have performance bond? We have insurance? What are all the things that we have that might, just your general run-of-the-mill commercial general contractor might go, that's not worth the juice. That squeeze is not worth the juice. And so,
I use that phrase all the time, but I did speak to one contractor that just didn't want to bother with filling out all that paperwork to put in a proposal. But what I can do, if it's the direction of the council, the will of the council, is I will get with Councilor Braden, get his contacts, and we will make, once it's ready for advertisement, we'll make direct contact with them, just to let them know that it's out there. Just to try to garner as much buzz about this thing as we can.
yeah, and I would just reach out to BIA and say, hey, anybody that does this, because we're having trouble at the condo getting people to do work on commercial projects we had. And we had a $2.7 million project, and we're having problems. So I can imagine if you got a little $250,000 contract, they're just too busy, but maybe Mr. Braden knows a couple of guys that can do it.
Mr. Bagby, help me out. What is BIA?
The professional organization, and the head in this area is Alan Baggett. I think I've got his number. I can give it to you after this meeting.
All right, Mr. Wagner. Oh, and Mr. Destin, were you done with your comments? Okay, Mr. Wagner.
Quick question. When would the 30 days lapse?
I think the quote was March 14th, so April 14th-ish.
Okay, so that's before our next meeting anyways. All right, thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, Rodney, you got another one? Go ahead.
I'm trying. Just to put your mind at ease as far as the glass and the windows, it doesn't work that way. If a contractor gets the job, he's already notified several window companies to get the glass, and then he has his own installers. The window company has to get installers to do it for them. They don't have their own guys. So it's not like the city glass is the only people, and we're going to lose that, and we're not going to be able to get windows. Just like, if you're trying to get a sheetrock done at your house, they're not going to come to work for you, but guys that work for me all the time, I make one phone call, and I'd have be somebody there that day or the next day. Yeah. So it's, if I try to buy 100 pounds of shrimp, can't get them, Dewey can make one phone call and have 1,000 pounds there overnight. So so anyway, I think it's good. Thank you.
All righty then. Go ahead.
Just a quick point on that. I was going to save this for my time at the end, but I'm just curious and how this works. Ronnie, you make a great point. Contractors, if I need a favor from a specific industry, I know exactly who to call right away. How does this, I've had several people ask me just since I became a Destin City Council member, how does that work? I mean, are we, and we talk about Destin locals, Destin local businesses, and tourists in that order, do we, and this is a question I've had for a long time, I apologize, I'm just now asking it, but do we not, is there something, I just want clarity on this, is there something that says that we can or cannot work with Destin local contractors? It seems like the majority of the contractors, the majority of the bids that we put out are reaching way outside of Destin. Does that make any sense?
Our contractors here and everywhere else, like everybody else knows, is not looking for work. They're not looking at the paper, looking for jobs to bid on. They got more than they know what to do with, so that's why we're not getting people. If you reach out to them and say, hey, look, we need a contractor, City of Destin, they're a city, contractor lives in the city, they're gonna come help us. They're gonna bid in a local town, they're gonna help us, but they're sure not reading the paper, looking at the website, looking for work.
And I understand that, and when I learned, I did not know what our order of priorities was until I became a Destin City Council person, or maybe till I was running for election. And since then, I've made a conscious, concerted effort to work closely with Destin local residents who run Destin businesses, down to who cuts my hair. And so, I mean, Gary looked at my haircut. So, I mean, anyways, that's a concern of mine. That's something that I care about, and so I'm curious. Do we have I mean, is that something that we consider? Is what I'm asking.
So, Johnny, I believe our procurement policy used to have a local business preference, but I believe that was removed recently because many of the grants from the federal government and some at even the state level do not allow you to have a local government preference. So I believe the city removed that entirely from the process. I think we could use it if we're just using our own money, but just to even it out, I think that was all removed a few years ago. Is that right, Crystal?
You're correct, Kyle. I believe it was in 2016 when the procurement manual was updated. They took out references for the local procurement preference. It is a common preference for a lot of local governments to have in their procurement policies, but you cannot have that as one of the criteria when you procure anything that's going to be accomplished using federal money. There's a federal statute that says we're not allowed to have a geographic preference.
Thank you, ma'am.
All righty then. I'm going to go ahead and take a vote before I say something about Johnny's haircut.
What was the motion, Mayor?
Okay, Ray, would you like to read the motion, please?
The exact motion was to resubmit to eligible contractors the replacement of community center foyer windows and doors.
Ayes have it, so moved. All righty. Now, let's see what time it is. It is time for a break, and then we'll move into our public hearing. I tell you what, hold on. Let's go ahead, we'll finish announcements, so we're done with the city manager's portion of the meeting, and then we'll take a break right before we enter into our public hearings. Go ahead, Webb.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Next, with very mixed emotions, I do have an announcement to make. Our code compliance manager, Mr. Joey Forgione, is moving on from Team Destin to pursue some new and exciting opportunities.
No, we just gave you a raise.
Joey became a part of Team Destin in November 2012 and was hired on as a code compliance officer through 2017. Then he rejoined the team as code compliance manager in November of 18. It was during this time that Joey began to build that department to where it is today, and the department has done a great job educating the public on our codes and ordinances. He has also helped code go from a reactive department to a proactive community service. He instilled a hometown community approach, and in doing so, he's created strong bonds with our residents and visitors, and his work approach has always been to help people come into compliance rather than penalizing first. Joey has a strong work ethic. He has always made himself available, and he is well liked by his peers and the community at large. On behalf of Lance, myself, and staff, I want to take this opportunity to recognize Joey and thank him for all that he's done for the city of Destin. Mr. Forgione, you will be missed.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys being here.
Last of all, I will be out of town Thursday and Friday this week for a trip that is scheduled for a very long time. So our community development director, Mr. Louis Zunguzzi, will be acting city manager for those 2 days. And
We'll get a lot done with you in charge, Louis. Thanks.
Crystal, watch them while I'm gone. That is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And right now, we'll take a 5-minute break and resume with our public hearings. seat real quick. Once Miss Abear gets back at her chair. Oh, here she comes. We'll begin item 5A. Mr. Bowman, take it away.
Thanks, Mayor. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2115 PC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, creating a new chapter of the City of Destin's comprehensive plan, property rights element pursuant to state law, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for title and jurisdiction, providing for transmittal to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, providing for incorporation into the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
All right. And seeing how it's a public hearing, I'm going to take comments for the second reading of ordinance 21-15-PC. Does anyone in the audience want to make a comment on this ordinance? Nobody's running to the podium. And so I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment period, and I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the City Council approve proposed ordinance 21-15-PC property rights element on second reading.
I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? Ayes have it, so moved. Mr. Bowman.
Next, we've got 5B. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2124 PC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending the future land use map as referenced in Chapter 1 of the Comprehensive Plan to include a change in the future land use designations of the parcels described and generally depicted in the attached Exhibit A from Crystal Beach Resort, CBR, and Crystal Beach Neighborhood, CBN, to Recreation, REC. Providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for jurisdiction, providing for future land use map amendment, providing for incorporation into the comprehensive plan, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective dates. Parcel ID numbers 002S22, 0590, 00000CA, and 002S22, 0584, 0000030.
All right. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the public comment portion of the second reading of ordinance 21-24-PC. Does anybody want to come to the podium and make a public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and entertain a motion at this time. Ms. Aber.
I move that the City Council approve proposed ordinances 21-24-PC on second reading and direct staff to transmit the ordinance to the Department of Economic Opportunity.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. The vote is unanimous, so moved. Mr. Bowman.
Thanks, Mayor. Next is 5C. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2125 LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending the official zoning map as referenced in the Land Development Code, Section 7.12.01A2, zoning maps to include a change in the zoning designations of the parcels described and generally depicted in the attached Exhibit A from Crystal Beach Resort, CBR, and Crystal Beach Neighborhood, CBN, to Recreation, REC. Providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for jurisdiction, providing for zoning map amendment, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Parcel ID numbers 002S22 0590, 000000CA, and 002S22 0584, 00000030. Public hearing.
Thank you. You can take a drink of water now. This is a public hearing for the second reading of ordinance 21-25-LC. I'll entertain any comments from the public at this point. Seeing no one up here for public comment, I'm going to close the public comment period and entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that the City of Council approve proposed ordinance 2125 LC on the second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further comment? Seeing none. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Mr. Bowman.
Next, we have 5D. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2205CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, providing for amendments to the Code of Ordinances to establish a flag warning system at city beaches, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Code of Ordinances, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
All right. At this point, I'll open this up for public comment for the first reading of ordinance 22-05-CC, amending the code in order to establish a flag warning system at the City of Destin Beaches. Any comment? Seeing none, I'll close this portion of the public comment public hearing portion and entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve ordinance 2205 CC on first reading and direct the city clerk to advertise for second reading.
Have a motion? I have a second. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Mr. Bowman.
Next, we have 5E. This is ordinance number 2203CN. It's the second reading. An ordinance of the City of Destin of Okaloosa County, Florida, relating to the lease of certain real property owned by the city, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for city council approval of a contract for lease of the property of Dalton Threadgill Park, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
All right, so now it's public hearing. I'll entertain any public comments for second reading of ordinance 22-03-CN. Seeing no one up, I'm going to close the public comment portion of this hearing and entertain a motion.
I got you, Mayor. I move to approve ordinance 22-03-C on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Seeing no further discussion. Vote is unanimous, so moved. All righty then. Thank you very much. Kyle, you can take a breath. First up, Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. Any chance we can get an update on the harbor survey study? Don't expect much, just anything going on. We hadn't heard about it in a while, so.
It was on YouTube.
I don't want to put you on the
Lewis,
spot.
you were there.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and council members. As a matter of fact, the committee, the Harbor Capacity Study Committee met last Tuesday. We gave them an update on what we've been doing since the last time we met, and also give them a preview of the activities that are coming up this spring as well as the summer. There will be a lot of activities, including on-site surveys, and also a review of all the activities in all the parking lots in the harbor, as well as aerial photography that will be taken. We hope to have recommendations to the committee by fall and complete the entire study by the end of the year. That's the plan that we have at this point.
And you can watch it on YouTube.
Sure.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Lewis. This may be for Joey, the getmyboat.com, the thing that's been a scuttle here lately, people have been complaining about. I think it was spoke about earlier, Johnny. You know anything about that?
Yeah, we're tracking it. I just looked up about 20 that I found on that website. So they're out there, and then we just got to find the needle in the haystack there, find out where they're operating.
That's kind of what they were complaining to me about it. And I was like, well, it's, catching them's one thing, and then, if these guys were picking up on their, and they were complaining that they were coming from Fort Walton or Niceville or whatever, and then pulling up to somebody's dock, and people were running out there and jumping on the boat and leaving. Well, that's private property, and I don't think the city can really do anything about that. But it's, I guess, catching them and enforcing something's going to be tough. But I don't know. I guess that's Joey, Coast Guard, Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, the 20 that I found are actually, they're advertising it in Destin, and no captains are available or optional. So those are the 20 so that I pulled and sent it over to the enforcement.
What they're trying to do, and Joey and I have talked about this, is they're just trying to find little loopholes in the deal because we got a moratorium on livery vessels. It was unfortunate that the Coast Guard wasn't here to give his presentation because he could have really answered a lot of our questions on what's legal and what's not legal. And seeing how we are in the process of writing our LDC, there's some things that we can do through our LDC to strengthen our enforcement capabilities on businesses that are running illegally in our town. So I guess we just got to keep working on that. That Coast Guard presentation will be really, it's really needed, not only for the council's edification, but for the community as a whole, on what a bareboat charter is, what a charter is, and what recreational is. there's a couple new businesses in town that are advertising luxury yachts, and which is totally different than some of the battles we've been having with pontoon boat rentals and stuff like that. And there's an educational process for them as well. And so I think as we understand that process from the Coast Guard's perspective, that's going to enable us to, as we're rewriting our LDC, get more clarification on how our ordinance should read, so we can try to, prevent the loopholes. Cheaters are going to cheat. Our code compliance people will do the best to catch them. We can violate them, but right now, as we all know in our ordinances right now, we don't have a lot of teeth in the enforcement side of things. And I'm working with Kim behind the scenes. I've given her some materials. I've been doing a little research on how we can use our certificate of use to do better enforcement on businesses that are not doing what they should do. BTRs, you really can't do enforcement through a business tax receipt, through the license. But what we've found out is communities have found ways to use their ordinance, their certificate of use, is that's truly going to be the vehicle, I think, to where we could, crack down on some of these people. And if a property's allowing that to happen, they're in violation of our ordinance already. That's a violation of their certificate of use. They're not supposed to do that outside of whoever's leasing their, operating from their property. So it's going to be a challenge, isn't it? It's just a matter of cheaters are going to cheat, and it's going to take self-policing. I think you saw a lot of the livery vessel folks here, because now that they are under a moratorium and they're not allowed to grow, they're really interested in making sure their turf's protected. Yep. And so I really feel for them. And that's one thing that I guess we're going to have to do a better job as a city, is keep the, protect our good, profitable business and the people that are trying to operate outside the realm of the law. Not only they're hurting those industries, and it's in the charter fishing industry as well. Not only do they hurt the good operators, but they're usually not insured. There's liability issues. It makes our whole community look bad. So we need to probably get a pretty good grip on that.
Mayor, if I might ask a question, and I chased 3 of them off yesterday, or at least I confronted them. They're coming and picking people up just anywhere along the waterfront they can. And the only conclusion I came to is maybe I can get the sheriff's department to put no trespass on them. But then you'd have to do one at every place there's a dock in Destin to be effective. So I don't know if anything can be incorporated in the ordinance that makes it a violation to go to private property where you do not have permission to go. But it's a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to, and it's almost, Kim, I think when we start getting to that aspect of it, it's almost another workshop thing to where we're going to have to try to talk about this as legislators of how do we best create the best legislation to protect the businesses that are operating properly, to actually be able to deal with the businesses that aren't in a manner that's fair to and safe for our community, because it is our responsibility to make sure that it's done the right way. So it's going to be a challenge. The Coast Guard thing will really educate all of us on what is and is not in their definition, and then we got to, I think the timing's perfect, because we're rewriting our LDC to set our ordinances and our capabilities, especially for our code enforcement people, to where a notice of violations no longer a cost of doing business. It can actually prevent you from doing business. And until we get that kind of hammer over people, they're just going to play the game. And we've all talked about that multiple times ever since I've been on the dais here with y'all. So the trespass thing, then you almost put the responsibility of the landowner having to trespass them. But that's something that we need to talk about. I mean, it's something we need to get our land use attorney's opinion of and try to figure this all out, because there's a demand that exceeds the capacity, and there's there's money involved, but it doesn't improve our lives on the harbor when this is taking place. Parking's already an issue with the people that have legitimate businesses. So we need to take a good hard look at this. And I look forward to the Coast Guard's presentation. It's just a shame that it didn't take place tonight, because we need to talk about it now. So go ahead, Mr. Braden, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I pulled up the website and looked for boats in Destin and pulled one up in particular, and it said, you know, we'll tell you your location to pick up when you book. And that's, yeah, because I look, where you operating at, where you pick up, you know, where's it at? And that's exactly what it says. We'll give you your location when you book. So, and I thought, first thing that was, you know, a business on the water like Dewey is, you know, you got somebody watching it, and when somebody gets out of the car and you watch them go on the dock and get on a pontoon boat and leave, you don't say anything, you just tow their car off, and you gotta have a sign up there that says, you know, if you're not doing business here, whatever, you know, you're gonna get towed.
We do that too.
Yeah, you tow them off, you don't stop the guy and tell him, and so when the pontoon boat owner gets a review that says, you know, don't go to it, you know, don't rent from them, because they're gonna tell you to park on someone else's property, and you're gonna get towed at $250, whatever it is. To me, that's really about the only way you're gonna shut it down that I know of.
Well, and on that train of thought, part of it's gonna be through our city website and our TDC and in our own businesses along the harbors, we need to educate the public, like, hey, this is how this works, and if you're going online, especially maybe we call out that particular website and say, if this is not what they're doing, these are not legal operators. And that's why the Coast Guard was really gonna shed the light on that. And it's a liability issue too for the city and the landowners if this illegal operation is taking place. The problem that code enforcement and the Coast Guard has is usually the only way to catch these guys is that they have to do a sting. They have to book the boat and show up like the tourists, and they get the guy, and then they can make a case. And then you're talking about manpower and time and effort and stuff like that. All we can do is make Chief Palmer over here at Destin aware of what's going on. We'll call Lieutenant Jordan at FWC because they have enforcement capabilities on illegal operators. It's not going to all fall on our people because they are violating Coast Guard regulations. So the only thing is, it doesn't appear like they're doing anything, but then all of a sudden, 2-3 months later, they make a big bust. And that's what we need to have happen, is some of these people need to get smoked with high dollar fines. They busted one down in Miami for a $165,000 fine. And that's what gets people's attention. So it's gonna be a team effort. It's gonna be the business owners, the charter guys kind of police themselves. I know the livery vessel owners are doing their very best because they're the ones that are complaining to us and telling us, hey man, you know, this is what's happening to us. So it's gonna be a team effort, I think, for us to get a hold, to get kind of a hold on this. Joey spent the last 2 years, I hate that he's leaving, he spent the last 2 years just dealing with the public portion of it, upland and the parking and trying to get everybody in line in the livery vessel business. And now all of a sudden, because we do have a moratorium, we have they're basically outside invaders coming in, picking people up in Destin. So now we've created a whole nother can of worms that fortunately for Joey, he's not gonna have to deal with because he's leaving us, but his team that he's built up they're gonna be under some stress to deal with this.
Thanks. And Dewey might be able to help me with this one. The 1st and 4th Street that Kyron keeps talking about, I always thought that, I know how 4th comes around and turns in south into Benning. But I think that's always been like that. The only thing that GNS changed was that piece of asphalt they poured between 1st and 4th. So they had a straight shot across there. Is that, I mean, that's
probably right.
I think just changing that, getting rid of that piece of asphalt, I guess would solve the problem, but, yeah, I know Kyron said something about straightening that intersection back out, but I always thought the intersection was the same. They just put that little piece of asphalt, so that straight shot coming out of the GNS. And maybe the only thing we need to do is replace that, or just take it out.
He didn't give us any solutions or ideas.
Or how to pay for it.
Sure.
How to pay for it.
Yeah.
Come on up, Kyron.
All right, while he's taking 20 minutes to get here, I just want to give a shout out to Dennis and his crew that did the swells and the grass and all over on Third Street and all that. They did a great job. I think it's really gonna help. I got time for one more?
Yeah.
Reference to that, Mr. Braden, if you come out to where, when it floods really bad, you'd understand what they're trying to do. Mr. Schultz did a great job of building those 2 houses back behind there, and he's trying to make sure that they don't flood, and it also affects my mom and several other people. Anyway, to address the situation on the road, before I left council, Mr. Burgess and I had talked about it, and he drew a drawing up, and we brought it up before council, and at that time, council decided not to do anything about it. The piece of road that you're talking about, Rodney, was the piece that was used when S&G Boats was there across the street, and they would drive across, so they had a better straight shot. That's the area that we want to keep. What you have is, when you get to the thing, it curves a little bit to the left on 4th Street and hits 1st Street. The stop sign is at 1st Street, and not you have to stop at 4th Street, and then you stop at the stop sign at 1st Street, which hits Benning Drive. So if you eliminate eliminate that curved area right there and make it where you stop at where 1st Street turns to the right a little bit and stops, you have a view of the left and right to where you can see if the traffic's coming or not before you get on there. As it stands now, when you get to the stop sign where it curves to the left, you rubberneck back to look at 1st Street to see if something's coming. Then you have to look back to the left to see if anything's coming off of Benning. And that's where several near accidents, including myself, have happened, where I look back, there's nothing coming from 1st Street, and I turn around, and here's somebody coming over the hump on Benning Drive, and that's where the problem is. It's a sight problem more than anything else. Mr. Burgess, if he's still got that drawing, he can present that to y'all at one of the meetings or something like that. But I did bring it up as when I was on City Council, but at that time the previous council voted against it. That hopefully that answers. So that's why I asked for the council to go out and look at it themselves.
We'll take another look at it.
Thanks, Sharon. The last thing I got is just to thank Joey for his service and what he's done for the city, and whoever takes your place, make sure to keep the foot on the gas. Keep it rolling. Thank you, buddy. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Clark,
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. Across from the shopping center where Destin Athletic Center and there are 2 shopping centers. The old one that has been discussion a lot. There was a very bad pedestrian car encounter there about a month and a half ago. I don't know if the person survived. It's very dark there, and there were people darting back and forth all the time. 3 seconds, about 3 nights ago, and I would have hit one myself who was on a bicycle in dark clothes and just roared across there. It's very dangerous.
Is there a waiting? Can you go power for the light there?
That's where I'm going. We need to either light it or put a pedestrian crossing sign. Lighting would go a long way because it's very dark there, and these people are running back and forth, and it's dangerous. You know, like I say, three seconds difference, I would have hit the guy on the bicycle. No, it's on Main Street.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's right there.
It's right between
The 2
Target
shopping
parking lot and the Pottery Barn.
That's
one.
exactly right.
And there's no
So-
crosswalk. The crosswalk's all the way down on Main
That's
Street.
right. So I would request that the city manager ask our public works people to look at what they can do to make that safer, because that's just,
A lot of that's people that are working. And it's
are-
usually late at night. After the
They are.
places close 9, 10 o'clock at night.
and
You see
probably
them.
a lot of folks who may be not familiar with the area from another country, let's say.
Yeah.
And they are going back and forth, and I don't even know what the fate of the guy that got hit the other night was. I'm afraid it was not good, but, I mean, that's just a matter of time before another one goes there.
Reach out to Gulf Power, because it's over 100-yard stretch there where there's no lighting. From about the post office, the
exactly
stoplight
right.
at the post office, all the way till Main Street. Yeah, there's not a light.
Yeah, what we need is probably a crosswalk there that they can come across in a light. Anyway, I'll request that you all look into that for us. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Mr. Bagby.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to apologize to Webb. I should not have gone VFR direct to Michael. So I will ask the city manager to put that on the Public Works, Public Safety Committee's work agenda and bring that back to us. Thank you.
Ms. Abear?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things that I've discussed with city manager and deputy manager. The major holiday of July 4th falls on a Monday this year, and, just talking about the summer months, a lot of us are on vacation. Just to have one meeting in July, like the second week of July, and then November and December, it's usually pretty chaotic trying to get all of us together. It's hard on the staff, their vacations, they're thinned out, and maybe having in November, the second week of November, have a meeting, and the second week of December have a meeting, so that the busiest times, our staff that are already working hard are not having to prepare for two meetings during two very busy months, especially like July for the summer. Everyone wants to take vacation with their kids. So if I can make a motion to change the July, November, December city council meetings to the second Monday of those 3 months.
You can only have one.
We only have one meeting.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
If the motion is to ask staff to come back and give us a recommendation,
That was kind of the recommendation we discussed, but yes, to have staff come back and tell us if
I'll
that
second
works.
Yep, we'd be happy to do that.
got a second?
All right. So the alternative motion is to have staff come back, give us a presentation on what the possibility of just having one meeting, the 3 months of July, November, December, and that being on the second Monday of those months. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, is there any discussion on this motion? If not, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Vote's unanimous, so moved.
The other two things, I'm on as chair of the Waterway Safety Committee that y'all all appointed me to. Fortunately, I had a great team, and John, if you could come up and help discuss what we got passed as an ordinance. And in this ordinance, it is going to go from our committee to the BCC, the Board of County Commissioners, at their next meeting to vote on it. And I've asked John, since he was one of the instrumental team players on this, because it was businesses as well as citizens from Fort Walton Beach, as well as Destin and, was it Niceville? One guy? Yeah. So if you could give them a quick highlight of what we're sending to the BCC as an overview ordinance for the county.
Hi, guys. John Stevens. Before I jump into that, I want to piggyback off what Rodney was talking about earlier. Law enforcement's actually planning on having 3 missions to go after these rogue vendors. In fact, Gary was there at that meeting, and so hopefully they'll start nabbing all those guys. So I'm talking about the ordinance. It's pretty much a mesh of Fort Walton Beach and Destin's ordinance, plus some other stuff. And it's really targeting all these businesses. And there's some good stuff in it. Like one of the things that it has in there, it says like you have to have a brick and mortar business. So therefore, these Get My Boats really can't run out of their backyard and go to a boat launch. Another thing that's in there I thought was really good was if you have one or more vessels, you have to have a chase vessel. So once again, it kind of goes after the single vessel businesses. Going over all, that ordinance, there's about 6 or 7 items that I want to eventually get into the Destin ordinance. In fact, I actually emailed them to Ms. Cobb. So I don't know if you want me to discuss it or just kind of let her kind of run
Wait till
with
she
it.
gets those and bring that to us, because this is just a condensed, this is what we've pursued to
Right.
make this a more structured for the entire county. But our ordinance was really strong as far as waterway and what we do with the rental companies and what our rules and regulations are. So the county kind of absorbed a lot of what we in Destin had initially already had established as working, and then we kind of fine-tuned it and sharpened some points.
And the
So-
plus side, going to what Joey's talked about, how there's only 20 businesses in Destin. Whenever this goes into effect, it's actually going to attack the whole county. So, I mean, it's going to be a good thing, so.
Okay, that's good for that, but while you're there, the other thing I want to discuss is our archery team took state And
Yeah,
John, speak to that.
So Destin Elementary actually competed at state 2 weekends ago, and they placed first. So I'm hoping at the next meeting if we can recognize the
I was going to make a
kids.
motion. Can we put it on the agenda for them to be recognized? Okay.
I got a nod from Lisa on that. We'll help out.
Yeah, well, no, it's actually my wife that's a coach. Yeah, she's got a good shot. Watch out. Real quick, can I piggyback off the archery thing? I actually want to thank Miss Lisa. So my wife and I met her, a couple weeks ago? And looks like we're actually getting an archery, I guess 2 camps that we're going to be hosting at the community center, and hopefully some more future ideas that we're going to be doing too. So.
And with that in mind, Lisa, if you could have city manager work with parks, let us know, how can we get the archery equipment for those camps or assist?
Oh, they already bought, the camp's already, it's already been resolved. We budgeted that in already, so. Okay.
Thank you, John.
And with that, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. King?
John, congrats on the archery win. I think that's awesome. We did archery in school when I was in elementary school, and it sparked a absolutely ridiculous fire in me to shoot lots of things with a bow and arrow. So thank you, Coach Oliver, John Stevens, and your wife. That's a great thing. Joey, thank you for your service and everything you've done, man. It's been just seeing you guys and what the kind of guys that you brought on and we're gonna miss you. Best of luck. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, I got two things. I have to regretfully say that due to the lack of participation, that we're going to have to cancel the opportunity to go to Atlanta just due to a lack of participation. I understand everybody's got different timelines and schedules. So Shane, we had one council member that said they could attend. So what I'd like to do is just recommend that take some time to go online, do some of the virtual tours you can do of some of those areas of Google the Gulch and Nashville and Avalon and the city center in Alpharetta, and for fun, take a trip over to Palafox and take your significant other for dinner on a Friday or Saturday night, or even during the week, and just see what's going on over there, because that's a lot of just some of the possibilities of what we can do. So they've done some great things. In fact, one of their challenges was just like ours now is parking, and they've done some things to address parking over there. So we can get some three-dimensional ideas. But hopefully that doesn't deter or reduce our desire to look into developing a city center while we can. I'm waiting for some news from Lewis to see if we can get a meeting, a face-to-face soon with those folks, and then I'll keep you abreast of that. What was talked about with Bill Shira, who was a legendary Little League coach for years and years and years. And so maybe we could look at some naming chances around some of our athletic facilities. But one of the ideas that they've done this at football stadiums everywhere, Doak Campbell being one of them. You have Doak Campbell Stadium and Bobby Bowden Field. Maybe we could have Dalton Threadgill Park, and that be Bill Shira Field there, the major league, because that was his love, was coaching the major leagues, which was the oldest group of kids, and he's won untold amount of city championships, and I did not feel like I arrived as a coach until I beat him 2 times when I was coaching. But I only beat him 2 times out of 7 tries. So that shows you how good a coach Bill was, and he was. His son.
And the impact he made on you, obviously. To remember
he made an impact on hundreds of children. In Destin. So that's maybe something that maybe we could come up with an idea and present it back to the council, and we could make a resolution to that effect. I think that was a great idea by Virgil, and Virgil was one of his players. And so I thought that struck a nerve with me. So that's something we'd like to look at. And that's all I have. And Kim?
Just a thank you to Joey Forgione for his service, and he will be missed.
I'm not going to let him go that easy. I still got him on speed dial. Joey, one of the things too, that everybody does thank you for your service, but most importantly is not just the quality of person you are, but you really have changed the culture in code enforcement in this town. And it's something that, as you have great success going on and doing the next thing, that mark is going to be left here. And I want to thank you for that, for the culture change of code enforcement and the structure that you've established. It's going to make your predecessor, the people that follow you, it's going to make their job a hell of a lot easier to continue on what you've started. And I appreciate that a lot.
You're welcome, sir. Just to let you know, if you remember the first time when I spoke to you, I said other departments will follow and call us. They are.
Yeah.
Just look at our neighboring counties.
Yep.
They're marking their vehicles, and people are calling us throughout the
I
state.
drove through Walton County yesterday. I was like, oh, look, they followed us. They weren't marked about a year ago.
Well, you know what to say. If you're not a leader of the pack, the view never changes. That's how I've lived my life. I
That's
like
an old
change of
dog
views.
musher saying, by the way.
All right. Anything else, Kim? Nope.
Thank
All
you.
right. Sir, I know you have something on your agenda.
Yep, just something real quick. Your attorneys are requesting your advice in the litigation of the case known as Destin Fishing Fleet, Inc. versus City of Destin, Florida. This is Okaloosa County, Florida Circuit Court case number 2019 CA 00425. This will be an executive session held pursuant to Section 286.011(8)B Florida statutes. We desire to discuss any settlement negotiations or strategy session relating to litigation expenditures as is allowed under the statute. And of course, be recorded by a certified court reporter in accordance with that statute. The people attending would be the council members, the mayor, although I know you're going to be out of town, Mayor, right? City manager, and your attorneys, myself, Ms. Kopp, your litigation counsel, Bill Warner, Eric Krebs, and Stephen Bauman. With that, we're asking that it take place sometime before the next city council meeting. I left the time blank for y'all to fill in, whether that be 5 or 5:30. I anticipate it could take as much as an hour, so I wanted to start as early as possible. But I know y'all are all working people. Your city jobs don't pay that much, so I didn't want to set it for 5 o'clock and not have y'all be able to make it. So if you could just set that by motion sometime.
Yeah, and this has been going on for a while, and I think probably an hour. If y'all can attend, I will be out of town. I'm attending a National Marine Fisheries function. So if someone would like to introduce a motion to that effect, I think an hour would probably give our team the time they need to give you guys all the facts and stuff, so.
I think if we meet at 5, we should be able to make a regular meeting at 6, hopefully.
What date do we have?
April 4th at our next regular city council meeting. All right, so the motion is to hold the executive session at 5 o'clock on April 4th before the regular Destin City Council meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none? Ayes have it, so moved. Anything else, Kyle?
Else, thanks to Joey, too.
All right, well, this is the last time for anyone that would like to make public comment tonight. This is your last opportunity, so come on up. Well, you know what? I tell people, I said, I've lived long enough to where I'm always going to have an opinion. So if you stayed here for this entire meeting, you are more than welcome to come up here and get your 3 minutes.
Yes. Sam Perman, 4652 Destiny Way. I'd like to address Mr. Destin, his question about the dark areas in the city. I want you to know that as a member of the Public Works and Safety Committee, we are working on that issue. Mr. Burgess has already left for the evening, but he is researching motion-activated solar lighting, which I think will be wonderful, not only there, but at the beach accesses on 98. They are sorely needed over in that area. The other thing I wanted to make people aware, if you don't know this, I found out this week that the Coast Guard makes available tags that will fit on your paddleboard and also on the head of your paddle if you are paddleboarding. There is a Florida law that you should be using your tether on your paddleboard because then your board becomes your flotation device. But we know a lot of people don't use the tether. And so if they fall off and they have a mishap, they don't have anything to float. So if they're not using that tether and they do get lost somewhere, at least if their board is out there floating, someone knows whose board that belongs to, and we have some idea of where they are. So those tags are available with the Coast Guard, and I'm going to personally go to the larger paddleboard companies here in Destin, Boat and YOLO, and make sure they're aware that those tags are available. That's all I have. Thank you.
I have a question for you. On those motion-activated crossings, are you talking about to where when somebody walks up to the crossing, the lights start flashing across the crosswalk? No overhead lights or nothing like that, just to get people to see that someone's about to cross?
It's not, exactly.
They're
And what
really
happens
needed
is
on
they
Old-
walk out there and the traffic immediately sees a light flashing. They're alerted, the person is alerted.
Yeah, they're really needed on Old 98.
Absolutely,
They're-
thank you.
So the one that you're talking about, that, we got to create a crosswalk first, but that would be perfect because that's 4 lanes. So you're going to have something flashing like that. So thank you very much. Get on Michael to get that going. All righty. Anyone else? Seeing no further comment? Sure, Shane, you came in. All right. Well, going once, going twice, going 3 times, adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Great job, council.